everybody, my name is Jo and I love to read. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm doing a wrap up of my 2021 reading year and goals and talking about my 2022 reading goals. We'll go through my stats first, courtesy of the StoryGraph, because I have them all on here now. I don't use Goodreads anymore. There is a little bit that will be, I don't know, you probably wouldn't be able to tell because I stopped tracking in like November and December. So a little of these are going to be a bit kind of off, but nobody will be able to tell. It's only because I've told you. I read 21 books for the year, and that is 8,371 pages. So I think that's pretty consistent with what I normally do. And of the moods, I read 17 of the books were adventurous, 4 were mysterious, 4 were emotional, 3 were tense, 3 were lighthearted, 3 were dark, 2 were reflective, and 2 were informative. So mostly adventurous. Doesn't surprise me at all. I'm a bit curious as to what the dark books are. Let's click onto that. The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. I guess The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. Definitely, but I think the way that Charlotte Nicole Davis did it was in like a really accessible way for younger readers, because it is YA. It is about a dark topic, but it's not super graphic, in my opinion. And then another dark one was The Queen of the Ceiling by Erica Johansson, which I definitely think that that is dark. And the way that sometimes things are written, they jolt you a little bit for a YA, but still not as dark as some things could be. So that's really interesting to see. I wonder what they think are lighthearted then. Let's go and look at that one too. Harry Potter: A History of Magic, which is by the British Library, and it's all about the different subjects at Hogwarts and what their real world roots are, so like the laws and the mythology that are in the real world that would have inspired the subjects. Guess that's lighthearted. And then also the unofficial Ultimate Harry Potter Spellbook. That one's lighthearted, I guess. And then From Dead to Worse. I always say that, From Dead to Work. From Dead to Worse, which is Sookie Stackhouse number 8 by Charlene Harris. I don't know if I would call that lighthearted either. I guess it's like paranormal romance, but I don't know, I kind of just think that lighthearted would be funny, but yeah, that's why I was curious about it. So out of the pace of, I've read 45% slow, 30% fast, and 25% medium. I'm not surprised by that because I think I'm learning I may be okay with slow-paced books. Let's look at which ones are slow. So we've got The Fiery Heart, which is the 4th in the Bloodline series by Rochelle Mead. I don't know if I would call that slow. The White Mare, which is the first in the Dull Rider trilogy. Yes, I would say that that's slow. 2 Thoroughbred books. I don't think they're slow. The Magician's Apprentice by Trudy Canavan, definitely. The Evening and the Morning by Ken Follett, definitely. Another Thoroughbred, I don't think so. The Queen of the Teeling, I don't think that's slow-paced. I don't know, unless it was just that she was engaging. I'm really bad at like this kind of stuff, so it's interesting to see what people in the StoryGraph have rated things. And then of course, like, the StoryGraph is really great because you can feel things in yourself, but then it also depends on if you're someone who, like, if you don't read, it's kind of like the whole Goodreads Choice Awards, Reader's Choice Awards thing, because unless you read every book, it's just a popularity contest, and I kind of just think that unless you read widely, how are you supposed to know what's slow paced and what's fast? Does that sort of like make sense? I just kind of think, how do you know if you don't know what the entire scale is? So, but it's interesting to see. And then the Sword Art Online volume number 9, Alicization Beginnings. I would definitely say that's slow paced. That took so long. Oh my god. Nearly DNF that book. So out of page numbers, 43% were between 300 and 499. 38% were less than 300. And 19% were more than 500. 90% were fiction and 10% were non-fiction. I'm happy to see that there are some non-fiction on there, so let's go into that, which is not as like exciting or as proud of myself as I thought I was going to be, but they are non-fiction. But that's Harry Potter: History of Magic and the unofficial Ultimate Harry Potter Spellbook. So yes, they're non-fiction from a fiction world. And then out of genres, 17 were fantasy, 10 were young adult, 4 were children's, 2 were manga.
Hey guys, Editing Jo here. I just quickly worked out what was wrong with my stats. The StoryGraph, I asked them the librarians to update book series, the Sword Art Online light novels, because within like the group of series. There were multiple books of the same volume. So I asked someone to go through and clear it up a bit, and it seems like they've actually gotten rid of too much. And one of the books that I read last year, Alicization Running, was actually was gone. So I've lodged another ticket to ask them to please fix that again, because they're missing a few things. But also the Sword Art Onlines were classified as manga, hence the whole talking about there's manga, but there's no manga on the graph. When I went and added the pictures later on, they've actually changed them to fantasy.
I don't know all the definitions with manga, but I thought manga was just comics, and I know that the two that they're writing as manga are actually light novels. There is an anime, which is the Sword Art Online series. There is an anime, but I thought manga was specifically Japanese comics, not light novels written by a Japanese author, so I don't know how accurate that is. And then two are historical and one is magical realism. What's the magical realism? That's interesting. I love that all these things are clickable. Oh, Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord. Okay, that does make sense. Yeah. That's like African folklore. I'm not surprised that fantasy is the biggest. And I think it may stay that way because that's what my mood is like. So the format 100% print. Doesn't surprise me. I don't know if I forgot to include this in my wrap up because I forgot. I did start the selection on audiobook, but I got bored and stopped. So my most read author, 3 by Joanna Campbell. Not surprising because she is on the Thoroughbred series. 2, Rochelle Mead. Not surprising because I was finishing up on the Bloodline series by her. 2 by John Flanagan, which is not surprising either because I know I had them on my TBR shelf. He's the author of the Ranger's Apprentice series. 2 by Riki Karawahara, author of the Sword Art Online series. 2 by Trudy Canavan, not surprised. She was also on my TBR. And 2 by Mary Newhall Anderson, which is a ghostwriter for Joanna Campbell, so not surprised. The only difference in that is that I don't think I read any that were written by Joanna Campbell, so the 3 that are up there are just missing her missing their ghostwriters. And then there's the cool graph, which is the number of books versus pages that you read. You can see that I stopped tracking in November and December. My average star rating is 3.9. That's pretty good. Why did I rate saying 5 stars? 2 books I rated 5 stars. The High Lord, yes, okay, and The Queen of the Tilling, which I didn't finish. That was a reread, so I'm not super counting that. But yes, The High Lord, I did. I loved that book. And that's it. Okay, so that's all my reading stats. That's pretty cool. So my reading goals to wrap up 2020 is that I wanted to finish my TBR, which I did. Woohoo! And I will leave a link down below to the video where I go into a lot more detail about that because I finished that in June or August, July, something like that. So I will leave a link down below. I won't talk about that much because watch the video. I then had reading plans going forward that I have another video about as well, but I'll briefly tell you. I can leave that one down below. So I wanted to, with the remainder of the year, I wanted to hit some categories with what I was reading next. So I called it a 4-book cycle, and basically I had 4 categories that I wanted to hit for the next, like every 4 books that I read. So I wanted one to be a non-fiction. I wanted one to be a continuation of a series or something by an author that I've already read. One was going to be a freebie, and then while those were coming in the mail or getting purchased, I was going to reread a book. And then out of all those 4, I wanted one of them to also be something that was diverse to me as a reader. So diverse is the word that gets thrown around all the time and it changes depending on who's talking about it. At least in my opinion, I feel like it should. So for me, anything diverse was going to be something that was not written by an American author and that wasn't set in America. I did this for 1 cycle successfully, and then I got pregnant and sick and tired and all that kinds of things. Even though I wasn't as symptomatic as other people's were, it was still a shock to my system. So I decided that these, especially now, I think I like set the challenges. I don't know whether we were trying then or not, but I think I underestimated how much of a change it would be being pregnant and having kids. So I decided just to go, no, let's not do this anymore. I didn't feel like I could dedicate as much time to the challenges as I wanted to get them done. And they felt really restrictive because someone who say reads like 10 books a month, 4 books is not that bad. But considering that especially now that I'm reading like one, sometimes not even one book a month, those topics are really restrictive. I am happy to say that I failed with that goal. So I did the TBR one, but I'm happy to say that I failed with the reading plans, and that is fine. I feel like being able to recognize whether things are too restrictive or not is a good skill when analyzing your goals and if you failed or not, and to not feel bad. So I don't feel bad at all. No, not 1 ounce of it at all. I do have some goals for this year, but they are, I'm just trying to find them on my laptop. They are fairly relaxed, which I'm pretty looking forward to. I don't have a number goal this year. I don't want to have read a certain number of books. I don't even want to have read 1 book a month, because I know that reading is something that I always come back to, so I'm not super worried about trying to reach something to make me consistent. The only thing that I will say is that somewhere, which I don't know where because this is the unknown, but somewhere in my new life with a child, I want to be able to find some kind of reading consistency. At the moment, I read in the morning with a coffee before work, and it really helps and makes me feel like I have more of a life that's not just going to work all the time and coming home, since I do work full time. Reading in the morning just kind of, it's something that's for me, and I do it every morning, and I have for a very long time. Occasionally, if I've got other things going on, or if I'm not like super motivated or whatever, I will actually not do it, but 90% of the time I do it. I don't know if that's going to be possible with a kid. Don't know at all whether I will be getting up and entertaining it or whatever, even when I'm returning back to work. So I won't be returning to work next year because I'm going to take an entire year off on maternity leave. So I'm due in May next year, like this year, because it is this year now. Oh my gosh, I'm due in late May. And so I'll be working up until mid-April, depending on how I feel. My company has a policy that you have to finish up 6 months before your due date. 6 months, lol. 6 weeks before your due date. Otherwise, you have to produce a doctor's certificate to say that you're healthy to continue to work. I'll see how I go. Having 6 weeks off sounds like a really long time to me, and time that I would rather spend at the other end of my maternity leave. But I don't know how I'm going to feel. Maybe I'm going to be struggling and I really just want to have a break, and that I'll really enjoy the 6 weeks to slowly prepare whatever else that we haven't prepared, and I guess to enjoy the remaining child-free weeks of our lives ever. And who knows, maybe the baby will be early as well and I'll think I'll have 6 weeks, but I really don't. So I'm just playing it by ear and see how I feel. But after that, provided the baby is born when it should be, it'll be, or not when it should be, but they'll come out when they're ready. Our dating system is not very high tech to work out when they're due. So, but whenever it does come out, I will be on maternity leave for 12 months. So for the rest of this year as well, I'm not going to be able to predict when my reading is going to be. And when I reach that stage, I just want to find some little consistent time to read. Just even if it ends up being like for an hour on the weekend when Daniel's home from work, so he's having a month off, and I'm going to have so the dog's underneath me having a sunbake and he just moved. Daniel's having a month off and I'm having the 12 months off, and yeah, so he'll be there to help me for a month, but then he'll go to work and I'll be having to look after this tiny little thing and keep it alive and entertain it and all those kinds of things. And I don't know what that's going to look like. And nobody can. Nobody can sort of predict, even if you have had kids before, each baby is different. So I'm just not setting myself up for that kind of thing. And I know that in the first half of this year, a lot of my time is being sapped with research and organizational stuff. I don't have anyone that is close to me in my life with babies, so I don't know we don't know what we're doing at all. We'll surely work it out like everybody does, but that means a lot of research for me to feel calm and happy and okay. So that's what a lot of my time is taking up with the first half of the year, but at least I'll still know that I'll be reading in the morning before work and I'll have that consistency. But when the baby's born, I don't know what I will have, but I just want to try and find it somewhere, even if it looks different, but just somewhere. And I think I will, because a lot of my anxiety at the moment is protecting like myself and not losing my identity in like being a mum. And even though like being a mum is a good thing and it'll probably be like the best thing that I do with my life, but I also still want to be me as well. So reading can be a way to do that, and booktube can be a way to do that, to kind of like feel like I have my own identity. So that's what I try and want to get to. I also would like to, which I haven't yet, which is a bit surprising, I don't know if I'm a bit embarrassed, but I want to read to my baby. So I want to read to my bump now. And I haven't yet, so hopefully I will. But then I also want to read to the baby and maybe make it like a bonding thing, but also to give it like the best start in life as possible. I don't know what I'll be reading. Again, I got to do more research into that. I was kind of thinking before it's born, I can just read out loud whatever I'm reading, but I haven't done that yet. But I hope to, and do some research onto what books you should read with newborns and things like that, obviously at their reading level, so that they can understand what you're talking about. And then the only other goal that I want to try and do is kind of a numbers related thing, but I want to read next year. I want to read one non-fiction book, and then I also want to read one book that has a disabled main character. And that feels like such a small goal for me, but it's still trying to like hold on to being diverse a bit more, to diversify my reading. It feels really shitty just to be doing one out of the entire year, but again, I gotta start somewhere, and I'll be stoked to read 12 books next year. So one of each of those should be fine, I hope. But I'm really reading like a mood reader at the moment, and it's really weird, and my tastes like change with the wind, so I don't know, but that's really what I just want to try and do that. I just want to try a little bit to kind of, amongst everything else and protecting myself and what's going on in my life, I want to try and at least read towards a bit more of the diverse reading that I want to do. So there we go. That is it for my goals for this year. Thanks everybody so much for joining me. It's been so really fun looking at everybody else's goals videos for this year. I really enjoy it. If you don't have a booktube channel and you've got some goals, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear what they are, but if not, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!